I was the underdog dishwasher, ridiculed by millionaire chefs. But then I did the unthinkable. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The kitchen hummed with tension, knives clanging, sizzling pans creating a symphony of chaos. It was my world, a world where I scrapped and scrubbed, my hands pruned and raw. Every day a struggle for survival. The smells were intoxicating. Garlic, fresh herbs, and the smoky heat of cast iron that made my stomach growl, yet my face burned as the high-end chefs scoffed at me. They laughed, rolling their eyes, their hands expertly crafting dishes that danced before my eyes. While I stood in the shadows, beneath the flickering fluorescent lights, they called me the dirty one, the dishwasher with no prospects. But I had dreams, tiny flickers of hope buried under all that grease and dishwater. My neighbor Maria used to say, "You can do more than just clean up, Miguel. Show them." Her voice echoed in my head as I wiped my brow with a damp rag, the sweat mixing with tears I refused to shed. I could feel my heart racing, and each pounding beat screamed for change. The warmth of the kitchen felt suffocating, but deep down, I craved more recognition, respect, and a chance to prove myself that I remembered my family, how proud they were of my first job, of me being their little miracle. My mother worked 2 jobs just to keep us afloat, and I wanted to carry that torch for her. I could almost hear her, a whisper in my mind. Work hard, Mijo, and success will follow. But how? The kitchen felt like a cage, and I was the bird too afraid to fly. Every night, I watched as the chefs pulled off culinary masterpieces while I remained invisible, a ghost haunting the dish pit. But that afternoon, something unusual happened. The head chef, a towering figure strutting around with an attitude thicker than the sauce he poured, suddenly snapped. He threw a plate, the ceramic shattering like my confidence. "Do you know the meaning of speed?" he bellowed, eyes wild, as the staff paused and turned to me. Silence filled the room, heavy and oppressive. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears, the creeping doubt clawing at my insides. It felt like the world was watching me, and I was about to crumble. In that moment, desperation surged within me. I snatched the broken plate, shards glinting under the harsh lights, heart racing with possibility. Was it time to step out of the darkness? Before I could second-guess myself, I crossed the room, trembling hands gripping that fragment of porcelain. But then I saw the stunned faces, shock painted across their expressions. Even the head chef's brows raised in disbelief. What would I do with it? I didn't know. Was it rebellious? Reckless? Perhaps both. But as I stood there, gripping my fate, an unthinkable, crazy thought surfaced. What if I used the plate to create something beautiful? Could I do that right here, in a world that mocked me? My palms were clammy, my breath hitched. The hushed anticipation pressed against my skin. I could feel the weight of their judgment, yet within that anxiety bubbled an unexpected thrill. And then, everything changed in a heartbeat, a moment suspended in time as the kitchen watched, waiting, hearts pounding in sync. What would break next, me or the expectations? The world outside seemed distant as I prepared myself to reveal something no one anticipated. Had I dared to defy the odds? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The air in the kitchen felt electric, charged with a mix of confusion and curiosity. My heartbeat thudded in my ears as I stepped forward, feeling the weight of every chef's gaze, each one a blazing spotlight illuminating my fear and my resolve. I closed my eyes briefly, imagining my mother's encouraging smile, the one she wore during our toughest times, and that lit a fire within me. With trembling fingers, I took the broken plate closer to my heart. Instead of throwing it away or letting it shape my shame, I envisioned it differently, the perfect canvas for a new beginning. As I moved to the prep table, the head chef shouted, "What are you doing, dishwasher?" His voice sliced through the silence, sharp and condescending. Determination surged through me. "Creating," I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. The kitchen filled with laughter at my audacity, but I didn't let that deflate my spirit. Instead, I challenged myself, looking for herbs, oils, and ingredients I had barely brushed hands with before. As if caught in a fever dream, I gathered fresh basil, vibrant tomatoes, a splash of balsamic, anything colorful that spoke to me. The kitchen felt like a spectator now, anticipation mingling with skepticism as I arranged the shards from that shattered plate into a mosaic on the counter. With each piece, I created a medley of what I had observed all those years, the way the chefs placed their food, the balance of colors that danced together on each plate, the sheer artistry that transformed mundane ingredients into magic. I splashed vibrant olive oil across the edges of my patchwork, the golden liquid pooling like liquid sunlight. The head chef watched, arms crossed, his expression veiled behind an unreadable mask. Then I strained my voice again, with a bit more daring this time. You say I'm just the dishwasher. But if one can find beauty in brokenness, maybe that beauty belongs to me too. There was a pause, heavy with disbelief, before a handful of the sous chefs started to murmur among themselves. A few smiled tentatively, and I saw for the first time glimmers of something in their eyes, perhaps recognition, or even the possibility of understanding. And there it was, hope, blossoming like freshly sprouted herbs in a garden. But the moment of warmth was fleeting. The chef stepped forward, impatience oozing from every pore. This isn't some emotional playground, Miguel. You're making a fool of yourself, he spat, drowning my moment of creativity with bitterness. My heart sank, laden with disappointment. Just as I thought I might crumble, I glimpsed Maria standing just beyond the kitchen door. She had returned with her dazzling smile, her aura warm and inviting, and I couldn't help but feel her encouragement wash over me like a cool breeze on a sweltering day. The chef's laughter faded as I met her eyes, and suddenly, I wasn't alone in this struggle. I felt anchored by her presence, that little flicker of hope, a testament to resilience. Show them, Miguel, she called out, her voice clear and fierce. You are more than just a dishwasher. Her words ignited a flame deep inside me. I found my voice anew, channeling it into the essence of my makeshift dish, the fragments of porcelain infused with my passion. I'm not finished, I declared, turning back to the kitchen, boldly lifting a ladle of vibrant tomato sauce. I poured it carefully over the shards, letting the richness seep through the cracks as if binding everything together. But then, as if the universe conspired against me to snuff out this light, the head chef moved forward, pushing aside my creation. He scolded, "What have you done?" His voice rose, a crescendo of disbelief and authority. And in that shocking moment of rejection, the plate slipped from my hands, crashing to the ground, shattered pieces spilling like my dreams. The kitchen fell silent, the breath caught in every throat, and I felt the cold grip of despair tighten around my heart. But as I knelt down to gather the shards, I noticed a few chefs standing closer together, whispering, sharing stolen glances at my work. A glint of admiration passed among them, a shift, however small, something whispering to the promise of a change. Then, in the depths of that icy tension, a voice chimed in. Maybe he's onto something. A voice from the back, a junior chef, someone who once tossed an insult my way, now stepped forward, their eyes filled with sincerity. Art is meant to be messy, isn't it? A flicker of hope ignited, but just as I felt buoyed by this fresh support, another unexpected revelation rocketed through the kitchen. Maria stepped forward, and behind her, to my shock, stood a man in a crisp tuxedo, a food critic known for his unforgiving reviews. He stepped inside the kitchen, eyes narrowing as he took in the scene. "Let's see what you truly have, Miguel," he said, and with that, a chill ran down my spine. The stakes had just risen immeasurably. What was about to unfold could either transform everything or crush my ember of hope once more. The tension in the kitchen shifted palpably, and with the food critic's arrival, every chef seemed to freeze in place. I could feel the weight of their scrutiny, the electric hum of expectations crackling through the air, binding my heart in an iron vice. My palms felt clammy, the remnants of the shattered plate glinting like little stars in the disarray around me. The critic's gaze was piercing, his expression unreadable as he zeroed in on my mosaic, woven from broken bits that had once belonged to something whole. I swallowed hard, desperation rising under the surface of my skin, but beneath the tremors of my fears simmered that unmistakable flicker of resilience. Art is meant to be messy, isn't it? Echoed in my mind, a reminder of the unexpected support from the junior chef. I straightened my back, reminding myself that the critics and the scoffs of the established chefs didn't define my worth. They had only ever seen me as a dishwasher, someone beneath their scrutiny, but here I was, standing amongst them, daring to create. "Let's see what you truly have, Miguel," the critic repeated, and I felt a smile slip across my lips, a mirror of defiance etched into my heart. "I do not need their validation," I whispered within myself, and after a steely breath, I began to gather the fragments that lay strewn across the tile floor. I picked up the shards with care. An unexpected warmth radiated from Maria, who stood resolutely at the sidelines. "You've got this," she called out, her voice a beacon cutting through the shadows encroaching upon my spirit. Each word she uttered layered another ounce of strength upon my heart, building a cocoon of courage around me. "Who made that mess?" the head chef snarled, breaking the momentary bond of unity among the staff. "You think the critics are going to celebrate your incompetence?" His words dripped with disdain. But just as my resolve threatened to falter, a voice rose from behind me. Another chef, an older woman whom I admired from afar, chimed in. "No one is unworthy of expression, Chef Martinez." The kitchen grew still, the tension thick between those two opposing forces. Yet that single flicker of defense warmed me into action. With newfound determination, I turned back to my station and began collecting the pieces I had carefully laid out. I took a breath and closed my eyes, letting my hands guide the ingredients instinctively. I hesitated for only a split second before launching into my next attempt, like a phoenix rising from the ashes of my failures. Fingers trembling slightly, I reached for more herbs, layering my dish with vibrant freshness. The clattering of pots and sizzling of pans filled the air as the other chefs managed their own creations, a reminder that we were all in motion, yet part of a collective heartbeat. I grabbed tomatoes, not just any, but heirlooms bursting with sunlight, vibrant with purpose and boldness. "Invite the aesthetic," I murmured, conjuring imagery from my mother's kitchen, where meals were not just sustenance, but celebrations. I arranged the tomatoes meticulously, fanning them across the mosaic of brokenness. A circle of warmth enveloped me as I got lost in my own creation, details consuming my mind while I allowed emotion to guide each move. Then, I reached for olives and thyme, their scents wrapping around me like an embrace. As I coaxed the flavors alive on my makeshift canvas, I felt the warmth of appreciation radiate from someone to my left. I glanced up to find Maria nodding in slow encouragement, her eyes sparkling with admiration, her presence reassuring me that even amid disdain, beauty could emerge. But just as I felt the thrill invigorating my spirit, the critic stepped forward, arms crossed, surveying my creation with that cold, analytical gaze. "It's unconventional," he remarked, his voice a flat expanse devoid of warmth. "Daring can easily tip into folly." Panic gripped my throat, and for a moment, the foundation beneath me felt unstable. What if my audacity was simply foolishness? Was I setting myself up for a disastrous failure that not only would I have to bear, but also my supporters? Yet, before doubt could completely paralyze me, something unexpected happened. A soft voice piped in from the back of the room. The junior chef stepped forward again, his voice cutting through the tension. "But isn't that what art is? Taking risks? Finding something beautiful in the unexpected." The air shifted, and for a heartbeat, hope hung delicately in the balance. "Well put," the critic replied after a long silence. And with that, a curious excitement coursed through the kitchen. The heads of each chef shifted toward me as if the moment had ignited a spark of unity. These embers were gathering strength, but the moment shattered again, like the plate that had once been my vessel. The head chef turned on me, eyes wild with disbelief. "Don't listen to them. He's just trying to mask his incompetence with half-baked concepts." His voice rose, defiantly loud in the cramped kitchen. The uncertainty hung heavy in the air, and in that instant, I felt the floor tremble beneath me. Would I be deemed the underdog, or was I simply deluded? Maria reached toward me, brushing my arm with warmth. "Fight for what you believe in, Miguel," she urged, but before I could respond, the critic took a step forward, shifting his full attention to my dish. Let's put it to the test then. Allow the flavors to speak for themselves. My heart raced, the stakes suddenly higher than I had anticipated. This was no longer a mere review of a creation, it was a reckoning that would unfurl in a matter of moments. My journey hanging in the balance, a delicate dance between acceptance and rejection. Bring me a fork, and let's see if your art can hold its weight, he instructed, and those words echoed through the kitchen, each one laced with life-altering possibilities. Would I crumble under the pressure, or would I rise to the occasion? As the air thickened with anticipation, I could sense the narrative of my journey taking another unexpected turn, one that could either illuminate my path or plunge me deeper into darkness. I prayed for a flicker of hope, clinging to the possibility that maybe, just maybe, I would earn my place beyond the shadows. The seconds stretched like taut strings, vibrating with the weight of unspoken fears and uncharted aspirations. I could hear the gentle rasp of utensils against porcelain, sending waves of tension washing through the kitchen. Time felt suspended, the world contracting to a singular focal point, me dish, and the critic poised to dissect it. Right now, everything is riding on this moment, I thought as I wiped my clammy hands against my apron, grounding myself amidst the chaos. The head chef's loud scoffs ringed like war drums in my ears, but beyond his jeers, I caught a glimpse of a quiet rebellion brewing within the kitchen. As the critic reached for the fork, I felt the collective breath of those around me, me peers withholding their judgments, hoping against hope that I wouldn't falter. The younger chef, who had defended my art moments earlier, stood right behind me, radiating solidarity. Somehow, his courage mingled with mine, stitching a fragile quilt of support that shielded me momentarily from the jagged edges of self-doubt. Flavor can transcend first impressions, I murmured under my breath, a mantra rising against the fear. I had poured bits of my soul into this dish, each flavor a thread of my journey. From the tender tomatoes to the fragrant olives, each component whispered tales of who I was and where I had come from. As the critic speared a forkful of my creation, all eyes were fixated on him, the kitchen electric with anticipation. He brought the morsel to his lips slowly, his expression unreadable, shrouded in mystery. I realized that every moment prior had been training me for this, the fear, the determination, the support. They all gathered in this singular moment as a crescendo. His chewing was methodical, precise, and those seconds stretched longer than I could manage. Not all is what it seems, I thought, wrestling with the growing dread clawing at my insides. I fought the impulse to look away, even as my heart drummed a frantic rhythm against my ribs. Suddenly, the critic's brow furrowed, and he leaned into the experience, contemplating the medley of flavors. I glimpsed a tiny spark of something: surprise, enjoyment. It was ephemeral, but enough to send a flutter of excitement racing through my chest. No, Miguel. Focus, I chastised myself, pushing aside the budding optimism. I was still on a tightrope, the ground countless feet below, my heart hammering an uncertain melody. After what felt like an eternity, he set the fork down, and the kitchen fell silent. I must admit, he began slowly, a hint of a smirk ghosting his lips. This is unexpected. Flavors twist and collide in an intoxicating dance. The words were like a balm, soothing against the sharp gnaw of anxiety that had burrowed deep within me. That I clutched the edge of the counter, allowing a shaky exhale to escape. But even as the warmth of relief washed over me, I felt the chill of another wave approaching. The head chef's face turned a mottled shade of anger, the red hue pulsating with each breath he took. This is an affront. You're endorsing mediocrity, he spat, ire oozing from every word. But the critic held up a hand, silencing him. Art and cuisine are meant to provoke thought, he countered defiantly. Miguel has certainly tapped into something few dare to approach. Mariah's gentle smile broke across my vision, a beacon of hope illuminating the darkened crevices of my mind. See, you're making them see, she murmured, a quiet joy glimmering in her gaze. Yet, even as the critic seemed to lean toward acceptance, I felt a shadow crawl beneath my skin, unsettling, unpredictable. The head chef's face was a tempest of fury mixed with something darker, deep-seated fear. It was palpable, setting my instincts on high alert. What was he plotting? Just then, with a sudden movement, the head chef spun on his heel, storming toward the edge of the kitchen, furiously slamming down an order of pots and pans, the cacophonic clatter crashing through the air like thunder. "You're nothing but a child playing at art," he shouted over his shoulder, not caring enough to mask his contempt. "This will end badly." My heart sank at the venom lacing his words, panic spiraling through the collective breath of my fellow chefs. What if you're right? I thought, battling the rising anxiety. But before I could spiral deeper into my burgeoning fears, the junior chef called out bravely, "There's power in the unconventional. Learn from it instead of vilifying it." To my amazement, a few others murmured their agreement, rallying around me, their resistance forming a fragile shield against the head chef's onslaught. "Stand your ground, Miguel," Maria shouted, her voice a fierce gust amidst the brewing storm, igniting sparks of resilience in this moment of rejection. The kitchen began to ebb and flow, caught in the tides of uncertain allegiance and division, culminating into an impromptu battle for philosophical ground. My heart raced, but I found my strength in this camaraderie tapestry of emotions woven through struggle and shared courage. Then the critic turned back towards me, his expression unreadable once more, but something flickered in his gazia challenge. "What will you do now, Miguel? How will you rise to this provocation?" The question hung heavy in the air, an invitation and a threat wrapped into one. Whispers of impending conflict skimmed across my mind, weighing heavily on my chest like a stone that I could feel the gravity of the moment pulling me deeper into its gravitational pull. The path was becoming clouded, obscured by the looming shadows of doubt and risk. Could my journey to audacity draw both followers and enemies? Would I finally achieve acceptance or find myself engulfed in a tempest I could not escape? And as the chaos raged around me, I found myself grappling with more than just the fear of failure. It was a fight for my very identity. Would I seize this moment as springboard or quicksand? I glanced at Maria, then back at the critic, ready to weigh the cost of hope versus risk, each heartbeat thundering in the growing storm. And in that charged silence, I began to form my answer, not knowing that my response could either ignite a movement or plunge me deeper into a world of shadows. The next decision I made would define me for better or for worse. The kitchen hummed with a newfound energy, my peers' voices weaving together, discussing what was at stake. It felt like standing on the precipice of a thrilling cliff, the wind whipping around me, but I was somehow too anchored in place to leap into the unknown. My heart pounded louder than the pots that had just clattered to the floor, with every beat questioning my worthiness, my conviction. The critic's eyes glinted with curiosity, a predator keen for his next challenge. "What will you do, Miguel?" His voice, so rich and commanding, seemed to caress the tension in the air, heightening the stakes immeasurably. Could he sense the uncertainty churning within? Could he hear my internal battle as clearly as my colleagues did? I felt raw, baring my soul to this audience I'd never truly asked for. "Stand your ground," whispered the younger chef again, the conviction in his tone striking like a bell tolling for lost souls searching for the way home. In that moment, I looked at him, a beacon in the tumult, and I realized my answer lay within the ripples of our shared struggle. I could ignite hope not just for myself, but for all of those echoing the calls for change. "What is cuisine?" I began, collecting my thoughts, pulling the courage bubbling deep within my chest to the surface, if not an extension of self. Each dish is a journey, a whispered fear, a soft longing, expressed through flavors and textures. It is not only a reflection of tradition, but an invocation of what it could be. Isn't that what we strive for? To redefine excellence, to push the boundaries? The room fell silent. Every eye was now fixed on me, the weight of my words neither a comfort nor a burden, just an honesty spilling out. I caught Mariah's gaze, a brief flash of pride igniting warmth in my chest. Yet, doubt clipped at my heels, a ravenous beast that wouldn't relent. I noticed the head chef sputtering at the skepticism of his panels. "This won't do. This will end in chaos." While doubt drank greedily from my well of self-confidence, there lingered a faint thread of hope woven through, like a fragile stitch that could unravel or bind us together. "Your journey, Miguel, it could be monumental," the critic prompted, his voice a teasing lilt, as if daring me to expose myself even further. And then I thought of the struggle, the long, sleepless nights spent in study as I clawed my way up from nothing me history with every burnt meal, every tear shed in frustration. When was the last time I truly believed in my voice? In my right to create? As a child, I may have only washed dishes. I continued, each word rolling off my tongue now laced with determination. But I have tasted the richness of every meal, every ingredient telling a story. Those moments have sculpted my palate, sharpened my senses. What if I asked you to journey with me? To taste life, not merely consume food, but rather experience each flavor as a part of ourselves? The kitchen pulsated with murmurs, some exhilarated, others apprehensive. I felt like a tightrope walker swaying in the gusts of both applause and condemnation. Somewhere deep down, I knew failure loomed at the edges, lurking like a predator watching for weakness. But a flicker of movement caught my eye. An older sous chef, weathered but wise, stepped forward. You speak truth, lad. Just as an underdog rises against a giant, sometimes it's the unexpected that teaches us the most. His voice, gruff yet kind, spread like a warm sunbeam breaking through clouds. Encouragement began filtering through the kitchen, igniting small embers of change, reviving once dormant hopes amongst the staff. Push back against mediocrity, the junior chef exclaimed, the resonance of his voice echoing against the metal cabinets. We can build something more. The tension morphed, shifting like flour mixing with waterless accusatory now, like the chance for a new recipe. And as if strung together by a common thread, my colleagues united, channeling their energy into a profound support network. I hadn't expected this. These people I had shared kitchens with, battles against convention, bonded over every shared plate. But just as I felt the flicker of hope flare within me, the head chef reloaded his voice, storming back towards us like a furious squall. This is insubordination, he boomed, eyes ablaze, a crooked smile poised maliciously at the edges of his lips. You think this is going to end well? You think you can redefine excellence at my cost? Just then, the plates beneath plastic wraps caught the gleam of new light. I could hear echoes of shattered dreams within my own heart, wondering if I was standing at the dawn or the sunset of my ambitions. No, I shot back, more fierce than timid, but I think we can create a new definition together. Isn't that the point of this journey? And for a moment, amidst the struggle, it felt like we were on the brink of something monumental, the clash of opinions ricocheting through the kitchen like a thunderstorm ready to break. Then, as if to punctuate the moment, the critic raised his hand, its authority a crescendo. Enough? His eyes, sharp and threatening, glinted with purpose as he continued. Perhaps we're witnessing the birth of something unique. He ran unbreached vision of culinary excellence. But the question remains. Miguel, he leaned forward, challenging me with a glimmering intensity. Are you truly prepared to stake everything on that vision? His question built a cauldron of uncertainty, swirling wildly inside me. This was not just about the dish anymore. This was life and ambition, craft and sacrifice boiling down to my response. It was the precipice between success and soul-crushing defeat. And just as I opened my mouth to respond, a loud clatter echoed from the far end of the kitchen. A commotion sent the chefs scurrying backward, a pan falling with such ferocity it dangled on the edge of a precipice, threatening to spill across the floor, symbolic of everything I was about to lose. Tea would change everything. Would that be my demise, or an opportunity? My heart raced, caught between the chaos pulsing in front of me. I had one chance to decide my fate. But in that charged chaos, everything felt precarious. My response, the kitchen's future, the critic's judgment. And as I faced the brewing storm, standing resolute at the crossroads of courage and fear, a single breath took hold amidst the collective apprehension. What if the unthinkable illuminated my path forward? Chaos erupted in the kitchen as the pan clattered to the ground, the sound reverberating like a gunshot through our collective tension. I felt a rush of adrenaline pulse through my veins, my instincts screaming for me to safeguard not just my dreams, but the dreams of everyone around me. I inhaled deeply, steadying my shaking hands as the truth settled in. This was no longer about the dish. It had metamorphosed into a reckoning. Get back to work, barked the head chef, the rage in his voice an all-consuming fire. But instead of cowering, I involuntarily stepped forward, my heart racing, as if every fiber of my being understood the magnitude of this moment. Wait, I called out, my voice cutting through the commotion. The demanding voices of the kitchen fell silent, drawn into the electric charge of my declaration. We can't allow fear to govern us. This kitchen hour Caccini's a crucible for change. I've felt too long like mere background noise, baking, washing, and now I'm asking every one of you to elevate our craft, not just for ourselves, but for everyone who's ever had to fight an uphill battle. The words left my mouth raw and authentic, echoing off the stainless steel. I searched their faces, feeling each heartbeat resonate through me, a collective pulse of what had brought us here. Sophia, the pastry chef I admired for her delicate artistry, nodded with unwavering resolve. Javier, the quiet fishmonger who had learned the hard way to stay unnoticed, stood strong against the head chef's oppressive presence. Fear has kept us stagnant, I continued, attempting to weave the threads of our stories into a tapestry of revolution. What if we choose to transform that fear into passion? What if our imperfections drive us to create something brutally honest, a culinary experience that reflects our struggles? The atmosphere shifted, the tension now a fragile hope weaving through the kitchen. Encouragement stirred within those who had once remained silent, spirits buoyed by the prospect of unity. Yet the head chef's glare pierced through the air like a dagger, his brows knit tightly together in fury. This is insubordination. You think you can redefine my kitchen while paraffin fumes rise from your hood? Gourmandism is not a game, Miguel. He spat back, his voice dripping with condescension. Yet, within his fit of rage, I sensed something else, a nagging fear of being dethroned from a legacy he clung to. The critic observed silently, an inscrutable expression on his face, both intrigued and perturbed. Perhaps sensing the tectonic shift among the staff, his eyes narrowed, the clash of possibilities dancing between us like kindling in a flame. I braced myself for his inevitable judgment. Instead, to my astonishment, he leaned forward, a flicker of admiration emerging as he gathered an air of authority. Very well, Miguel. If you think fear is your enemy, prove it. Show me the depths of your soul and the brilliance of your kitchen. I want to see you forge something new from this chaos or watch it all collapse. His words hung heavy in the air, a dare that felt both impossible and intoxicating. But within the precariousness lay a glimmer of opportunity, threading itself into the very fabric of this chaotic battleground. I stepped past the edge of uncertainty, finding courage in the doubts of those around me. As we wrestled our battle cries from amidst the wreckage, the tiniest embers ignited. The flat surfaces of the counters that had only held the weight of individual struggles transformed into canvases of collective imagination. Ingredients began to dance around us, a flurry of creativity ignited from within. Minutes blurred by as I orchestrated our brush with chaos, gathering this team of underdogs together like artists merging colors onto a stark white canvas. With each dish being born from our raw vulnerability, every chop and whir of the mixer became a piece of ourselves laid bare. Together, we skillfully crafted a dish that reflected every hardship and triumph, melding traditional recipes with our shared narratives into a cohesive masterpiece. And as we plated the final creation, I recognized the warmth spreading through me, a newfound recognition of our shared journey birthed from struggle. But just when hope was threading its way through my heart, a sharp voice sliced through the harmony we had stitched together. You think you stand a chance against me? The head chef hissed, a predatory glint shining in his eyes. Just wait until my best dish is ready. You'll regret the day you defied me. My heart dropped, dread pooling like lead in my stomach. We had set our course, but the shadows of false security began creeping in, tempting failure to loom once again. Would our newly crafted dream survive the storm brewing on the horizon? Then, in the midst of the building tension, Maria stepped forward. Miguel, promise me one thing, she said, her voice trembling yet resolute. No matter what lies ahead, promise me we do not let fear strip us of our authenticity. These dishes, they carry our legacy, our truth. They deserve to thrive. Just as I opened my mouth to respond, a new sound penetrated the kitchen. The phone rang loudly across our workstations. The heads turned like pillars of stone, apprehension retreating for an instant. We could hear the distant chatter on the other end, and as I approached, a chill raised goosebumps on my arms. This call could alter everything. I picked up the receiver, my fingers trembling as the voice on the other end sang a tune too familiar yet alien. Miguel? It was unfamiliar, yet the urgency turned my blood cold. You might want to sit down. The weight of uncertainty settled around me like an icy shroud as I exchanged glances with my crew. And at that moment, the horizon shifted, the shimmer of hope fading into something deeper. As the puzzled faces of my friends encircled me, the voice on the line revealed a shocking truth that would forever intertwine our fates. The voice from the receiver morphed into a distant echo before crystallizing into words heavy with meaning. Miguel, it's about your father. He's in the hospital. It doesn't look good. The finality of those words struck like an iron bell. The kitchen, once alive with creation, fell silent, and I felt the world expand and contract around me. A helpless breath caught in my throat. My father-me anchor was in trouble. The foundations of my life began to tremble, teetering on the brink of ruin. I turned to my teammates. Their faces a mixture of concern and empathy, yet I could only manage a perfunctory nod as I wrestled with the turmoil brewing within. How could I walk away from this culinary revolution, especially when so much hope had been kindled within these walls? A choice loomed before me: family or passion. Still clutching the receiver, I felt a familiar hand on my shoulder. It was Sophia, her grip firm, steadying the unraveling threads of my resolve. You shouldn't be here if your heart is somewhere else, she whispered, compassion weaving through her voice. Maria, who had fervently rallied us just moments before, approached, her brow creased with worry. What does this mean, Miguel? Are you leaving? Her voice cracked slightly, echoing my own crumbling spirit. As emotions crashed toward me like waves about to drown, I forced myself to breathe. I don't know, words were futile now, reduced to shards of despair strewn across what felt like a fragile battlefield. But then Javier stepped forward, quiet yet resolute. Go to him, Miguel. We'll find a way to carry on here, he said, his voice a testament of unwavering loyalty. This can't, and no, it just can't. Rallying for a moment of clarity, I glanced around at the faces of the ones who had become like family, tethered by the hopes we'd ignited together. I was torn between duty and desire, heart and ambition, each facet of my life calling for recognition and each fraught with consequences. Suddenly, the head chef's laughter pierced the air, cutting through the emotional fog with an unsettling sharpness. What's this? A little drama, huh? Is your heart really aligned with this scrappy squad? His derision hung heavy with disdain. Go to your sordid past, then. Just remember, the kitchens of today don't have time for weaklings. That laughter ignited something beneath my despair, a spark of defiance. I realized I was not just fighting for my dreams, this was so much bigger than me. If this is what you call weakness, I replied, my voice gaining strength as words flowed from some reclaimed well of fury, then you are the one who will regret underestimating what happens when people refuse to crumble under pressure. As I stared into the head chef's eyes, a recognition flickered within the depths, his bravado masking the fear that sat just beneath the surface, fear of being rendered irrelevant in a world that demanded freshness. The critical eye was upon us, and I realized, in everyone's gaze, my solitary truth: our stories mattered. More than our culinary skills, it was our courage, the rawness and vulnerability we laid bare that could leave a mark on the world. Driven by urgency, I stepped away from the receiver, the weight of my father's plight juxtaposed against the fire smoldering in my heart. I need to go, but no, we will not falter here, I proclaimed. You've shown me what it means to strive for authenticity, no matter how hard it is to carve that truth amidst chaos. We'll be back, I promise. Each of them nodded in understanding, a silent web of connection forming, grounding us even in the face of uncertainty. And as I turned toward the door, my heart pulled taut between two realms. A flurry of buzzing thoughts occupied its space. I had made a choice. Now it was time to face the unknown. Just as I reached for the handle, the door swung open, hitting the wall with a resounding thud behind me. A figure stood in the doorway, someone I had not expected to see. My mother, with tears glistening in her eyes, her fragile frame seemingly weighted but somehow brimming with strength. What are you doing here? I managed to choke out, feeling an influx of emotion wake dormant memories. Miguel, she started, her voice breaking apart under the strain. There's more you need to know about your father. It isn't what you think. My heart raced as her words hung in the air, ripe with unspoken truths, each syllable straining my consciousness. The very ground seemed to shift beneath me, and I felt the world zoom in and twist on itself, plunging me into an even deeper abyss. What do you mean? I asked, a sense of dread creeping into every crevice of my being. Did this revelation hold the power to unearth secrets long buried or awaken even greater turmoil? As she opened her mouth to respond, the reality of what lay ahead swam into focus an emotional storm that threatened not just my path, but the intertwined fates of all those gathered with me in that unyielding kitchen. In that moment, I realized that I was, indeed, on the cusp of something far beyond my control, an impending tension, where breaking boundaries intertwined with the deepest echoes of loyalty and love. And as my mother stepped closer, the look on her face filled with urgency and fear, I braced myself for the unraveling truth that could either shatter or solidify my existence, ready to redefine everything I thought I knew. My mother stepped forward into the kitchen, her eyes pleading, and I could hear the faintest tremor in her voice. "Miguel, listen to me. Your father, he has been sick for a long time, and it's not just the hospital visit you think it is. There are things he didn't want you to know, things that will change how you see him, how you see us." Every word felt like another brick being laid on my chest, suffocating my breath just a little more. The kitchen fell silent, the atmosphere heavy with apprehension. The team, supportive and steadfast moments ago, now watched us with a mixture of concern and caution. I could almost feel their hearts beating as one with mine, tangled in the web of unspoken fears and old wounds that were threatening to unravel. "Mom, what do you mean?" I pressed, desperation lacing my voice. I needed answers, but the fear that curled in my stomach warned me that those answers might fracture what little I had left to hold on to. She inhaled sharply, brows knitted together, and I could see her resolve beginning to crumble under the weight of the past. "He didn't want to burden you, Miguel. Your father has been dealing with debt, trouble with his business, the kind of things that made him think he had to carry it all by himself. He didn't want you to worry about him, to think less of him for it." An incredulous laugh bubbled up within me, both bitter and hollow. "So you let me believe he was just sick? That he needed to go to the hospital for routine treatment? You let me think that he was just some infallible hero, and now I find out he's been drowning beneath all of this." "Miguel, please," she implored, her voice quavering in a way no amount of strength could mask. "He's still your father. He loves you. He thought if he kept it from you, it wouldn't crush your passion. It wouldn't stop you from chasing your dreams, but he was wrong. He just didn't want to see you give up on this because of him." Rolling waves of anger washed through me as I processed her words. It didn't feel right. Now, it felt as if betrayal tangled with every thought I had of him. My father had turned into a myth in my mind, someone bigger than life who had led me by example. Yet here, he was dragging a burden I never knew existed. "Mom, I can't just pretend this doesn't change everything." I snapped, hurt flooding my voice. "How can I go to him now? How can I sit by his side when everything I thought I knew is shattered?" Sophia stepped to my side, her presence a haunting reminder of the life I had momentarily paused. She reached out with a gentleness that both calmed and stoked embers of my fury. "Miguel," she said softly, "you're not alone in this fight. You have family here. You're surrounded by people who care about you, and they can see what you're doing is brave. Your father needs you right now. Maybe it's not just for him, but for you too." I took a moment to gaze at the faces surrounding Mimi, teammates who had come to embody his second family, each one wading through their own battles, yet still lifting their voices to cheer for each other. Even amidst the kitchen chaos and the head chef's jeers, we were bound by passion and a hunger for authenticity. The dichotomy of loyalty and betrayal ravaged my emotions, yet resilience prickled at the edges. "Perhaps I could find a way to reconcile if hell let me in," I murmured, the words tentative but driven by a thread of hope. "But what if he doesn't want me to see him like this? What if he's too ashamed to face me?" My mother's eyes shimmered with unshed tears, her lips trembling. "Miguel, shame doesn't hold a candle to love. If you close the door on him now, it will be a shame much greater than any frailty. You can be the light he doesn't know he still has." A decision looming before me. I felt a crack begin to form in the fortress I had built around my heart. Hope flickered like the softest ember waiting to be stoked into a flame. If I didn't take this step, would I live with the regret that I hadn't tried the rejection of my own father's fragility? I looked at my teammates one last time, their encouragement wrapping around me like a protective cloak as I turned to my mother. "He'll go," I said, my voice calmer than I felt. "He'll face him." I have to understand that as I took a tentative step towards the door, the weight of all that had been said lingered heavily, but amidst that heaviness, a solitary truth began to crystallize in my heart. Whatever the outcome of that meeting, I needed to confront it. It was time to merge my two worlds, to chase reconciliation even when I felt lost within myself. But just as I reached for the handle again, the kitchen door swung wide open once more. This time, it was Javier, and his face was pale, his eyes wide with urgency. "Miguel, you need to hear this. It's about your father. There's something you don't know. Something big." Our eyes locked, and the gravity of his words landed like a heavy stone in the silence that followed, a new wave of uncertainty washing over me. My heart raced anew, pulsing with dread mixed with a desperate need for truth. What could be bigger than what I had just learned? The storm of emotions brewed once again, but this time, it was more than turmoil. It felt transformative. In that spiraling moment, I steadied myself for the upcoming revelation, heart bracing for impact on a journey that was no longer solely my own. I couldn't turn back now. It was time to face the layers of reality waiting to unravel. The kitchen air buzzed with tension, a sharp reminder of the chaos that simmered beneath the surface. I could sense Javier's urgency crackling in the air, interwoven with the familiar sense of sautéed garlic and simmering stocks. Yet, all those sensations felt muted, my mind whirling with unease as anticipation pounded rhythmically against my chest. "Javier, what are you talking about?" I edged closer, my voice thick with anxiety as the world outside seemed to still, or at least pause in recognition of the heavy words about to be spoken. He stepped forward, his hands fidgeting at his sides. "It's about your father and the business. He borrowed money, a lot of it from people who don't play nice. He's in deeper than anyone realized, and they're not just going to let him walk away. There's word around town that they're coming for him." The words twisted like a knife in my gut, reality twisting into a nightmare. ID entered this kitchen ready to face my father, to extend a hand of understanding, and now I was suddenly thrust into a world I couldn't comprehend. The implications of Javier's revelation wrapped around me, squeezing tighter until it was hard to breathe. "Coming for him? You mean what? Are they going to hurt him?" My voice was a strangled whisper, panic clawing up through my throat as images of violence and desperation flooded my mind. "I don't know the details," he replied, his usual bravado stripped away. But if his debts aren't settled soon, he let the thought hang in the air as the horror of the consequence knotted ominously in my chest. Sophia stepped closer, her gaze sharp, holding mine with a blend of determination and concern. "We need to act fast," she urged, her voice steady. "You can't face him without knowing what's really at stake. Maybe he's been hiding that too, not just sickness. If he's in trouble, you'll need to protect him. Protect him." The irony twisted painfully within me. Could I even protect the man who had hidden this from me? My mind raced as I considered the consequences of revealing I knew. Would it drive him further into shame, into isolation? Or would it be the impetus he needed to face his ghosts? "Do you think he even wants my help?" I voiced, battling the rush of conflicting emotions threatening to drown me. "You said it yourself. He doesn't want to burden me. What if he's too far gone to let me in?" Javier nodded solemnly. "That's precisely why you need to confront this. You might be the only person who can give him a reason to fight back. But you have to go to him, Miguel, today. Don't wait." The kitchen felt like it was closing in on me, the walls pulsing with an intensity one could hardly bear. Still, amidst the oppressive fear, a flicker of resolve sparked at the corners of my mind. My father needed to know that he wasn't alone, and perhaps I needed to know it too. We were bound not just by blood but by the weight of the struggles that loomed over us both. "I'll go," I said, feeling a surge of strength rise within me. I won't let fear dictate my actions anymore. As I turned to face the door, ready to step into the unknown, Javier called out after me, "Miguel, wait. Just one more thing." "What?" I queried, glancing back. "There's more. I overheard him talking to someone, the sort of people you wouldn't want anywhere near your family. If you see him today, be careful. He could be in deeper than you know." His words hung heavy in the air, and it was as if a wall I thought I'd begun to break down slammed shut once again. The vulnerability wrapped around my heart like barbed wire. I wanted to reassure him, to soothe his fears, yet it felt like my own were starting to spiral out of control. Just be careful, okay? Javier's voice softened, an unexpected kindness threading through our world of tension. Yeah, I replied, though I felt uncertainty churn within. I had previously approached the day with a flicker of determination, but now shadows loomed, bringing whispers of doubt. Would I be walking into a trap of his secrets, or was this my chance to step into the light? As I crossed the threshold of the kitchen, my heart pounded out a harsh rhythm. I was charting a course into uncharted territory, and dread seeped into the cracks of my bravery. But, for every strength I gleaned from the collective warmth of the people around me, there remained the undeniable truth lurking in the air. The more I dug for answers, the more likely I was to unearth painful truths that had long been buried beneath layers of deception and pride. And what if they revealed a reality too brutal to accept? As I stepped out into the open expanse of the world beyond, my phone buzzed violently in my pocket, cutting through my thoughts. The screen lit up, an unknown number glinting back at me. I hesitated, the weight of possibility settling anew. What if this call held the key to answers my heart desperately craved? Or worse, the final nail in the coffin of my resolve? With a trembling hand, I swiped to answer, breath held tight in my lungs. Hello? I answered, every fiber of my being bracing for the unknown. Is this Miguel? A rough voice replied, crackling over the line. We need to talk about your father. And suddenly, I found my determination slipping once more, the edge of uncertainty breaking underfoot. The sound of urgency in the stranger's voice created a ripple of fear but also a promise that my journey had just begun. I stood at the edge of the abyss, a sheer drop of uncertainty waiting for me to plunge into its depths. They say that life can turn on a dime, and hell, if that wasn't the truth just then. We need to talk about your father, the voice insisted. I could hear the edge of urgency layered within, a cautious invitation wrapped in shrouds of desperation and menace. The air thickened around me, buzzing with dread mingled with determination. Who is this? I managed to stammer, piecing together shards of bravery that I was desperately trying to hold on to. I had come this far, intending to embrace my father with understanding and love, and now this stranger threatened to pull me once more into secrets I wasn't prepared to face. Just a friend, the voice replied, rough and gravelly, as if worn by time and consequence. Listen carefully. Your father is in trouble, real trouble, and time's running out. Trouble how? I pressed, clenching my fists while trying to retain an air of control. What do you know? Meet me where the river bends by the old mill at noon tomorrow, and you'll understand, he urged, urgency choking his words. Trust me. I didn't trust him. He was just a voice on a line riding the waves of uncertainty, a stranger who had just thrown more wood onto the fire that was already licking away at my resolve. I felt the world trembling from under my feet. Was this the ideal time to pursue the rabbit hole? But if there was a chance to set things right with my father, wouldn't it be irresponsible not to? My heart lurched at the thought. My father needed me. I needed to know the truth before unearthing painful histories. But as the sun hung low in the sky, dipping into shades of gold and rust, I couldn't shake the icy grip of anxiety clenching its cold fingers around my chest. My mind raced, a tempest of thoughts colliding chaotically. What if this man is trouble? I thought. What if he leads me to a fate worse than I've imagined? No. I shook my head firmly, planting my feet in resolve. I wouldn't go down that path again. I had heralded this shift for so long. After hanging up, the weight on my shoulders felt heavier as shadows coiled around my consciousness. So many emotions, each could bloom or suffocate at any given moment. The thought of facing my father felt like plunging into icy waters. Beautiful, yet suffocating. Would he be someone I could truly understand, or a stranger cloaked in the traditional hero I had idolized all along? Turning away from the fading sun, I trudged back to the kitchen, determination urging me forward. I had to find clarity before the next tide crashed against the rocks of my tangled world. I walked through the heavy kitchen doors, its familiar aroma reeking of scents that were both comfort and confusion to me. A muffled chatter punctuated the air, the sounds of unity still shimmering despite the weight of hidden fears. I stepped further in, every head turned to acknowledge me, eyes large with curiosity and concern. I took a moment to catch my breath, realizing that this was my family too, the ones who had stood alongside me through thick and thin. They had become my allies in a battle for authenticity, for dreams that whispered hope and graced every dish we plated. "Hey, how did it go?" Maria asked, weaving through the crowd toward me, evergreen hope shining through her eyes. The sight washed over me with warmth, yet a twinge of guilt surged at the thought of how imperiled my connection to her and the kitchen might soon become. "Not great," I admitted, guilt and burdens swirling together in the pit of my stomach. "I need to meet someone about my father. Things are worse than I thought." A ripple passed through the group, but before doubts could settle, Sophia stepped forward, her heart full and fierce. "No matter what happens, Miguel, you don't have to face this alone." I nodded in gratitude, feeling the assurance weave through me, a promise that would last beyond this moment. "I don't know what I'll find tomorrow," I said, my voice trembling slightly, "but whatever it is, I won't let it steal my future away." "Good," she declared, a slight smile breaking across her face. "Because you have every right to choose who you want to be next. We're all with you." The collective agreement bubbled in the air, a chorus of understanding and strength coiling around me, stoking warmth in my heart. The emotional burden smoothed against the edges of realization. If nothing else, I had the support of those who understood. I was no longer just a dishwasher, I was a catalyst of change. Despite the urgency to confront the truth that awaited, I lingered for a moment longer, catching each person's eye, living in this beautiful tableau of resilience. Together we'd journey through the uncertain, and in the collective strength of our connection, I felt infused with courage not just to confront my father, but to challenge the very foundation of what family meant. Each person in the kitchen stood like a pillar, surrounding me with hope, waiting in solidarity as if they, too, would venture forth if I asked them to, risking heartbreak for the sake of authenticity. And as I began navigating homeward, heart heavy but resolute, I glimpsed that delicate line between fear and freedom stretching before me, and with each step, I whispered a quiet promise to myself: I will speak truth, even under the weight of heartbreak. Tomorrow was unbound, but I would face it. I would unearth the darkness and let it remind me of the beauty that lived within honesty. I carried that flicker of hope proudly along with me. And in that moment, as I breathed deep, a thought crystallized. Sometimes, the most powerful stories are the ones that come from the deepest corners of heartache, a recognition of love beneath the chaos. Tomorrow held the promise of revelation, and as daunting as it may seem, I knew it was the only pathway into the light. I would face my father, and whatever truths lay unfurling like petals waiting to bloom, I was ready to embrace them all. For family isn't just about the complexities of love, it's about the unbreakable bond vehicles of forgiveness can forge. And as I alighted into the soft embrace of twilight, I understood. Facing the darkness would only make the brilliance of the light shine that much brighter. Together, I whispered as the last rays of sun dipped below the horizon, we will rise. In the heart of the storm, I would find clarity, for that was the ultimate crescendo on this journey. To grasp the pen and rewrite my own narrative, one forged through resilience and the unwavering pursuit of truth.